Hey, welcome back to Technical Writing Uncensored. I'm here with Derek Ciula, AI researcher and solutions architect. He's passionate about documentation. So, Derek, tell me your story. You were from a lumberjack family, and now you're an AI architect.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think, well, lumberjack, how do you get to AI? Not necessarily known for their technology. But where I come from, out in the sticks, resourcefulness was just the day in the life. If anything broke, it was a half an hour to town. So you learn to make do with what you had. And then the other thing that kind of was instilled in you as the business is that you're always investing in knowledge and it's a capital investment in yourself and the business. So in the AI world, when I was like, listen, okay, I can rent these frontier models, but I have a graphics card, I have computers. Why am I paying someone for that? So I use as much as I can from the frontier models to build tooling locally that I don't have to leverage as much on the frontier models. So it's just a continual pattern.
So, what do you mean by frontier models?
Frontier models. So Claude, Opus, Fable, when you can use it, if you want to use Gemini or GPT, whatever your flavor of really large model is. Locally, I'm not going to fit anything with multiple 7 trillion or a trillion parameters or hundreds of billions even, but you can fit comfortably 30 Bs, 30 billion parameter models. And when you stack multiple of those, especially in sort of a planner critic or leveraging sort of creative nuances instead of just saying, what's the largest model I can possibly fit? If you dial them more specifically to the tasks, you can get a very similar, sometimes even better outcome.
Okay, so is this what some people are calling local AI?
A lot of people would refer to this as running your own local AI lab. It's, I'd say it's a lab more so than a computer because it's a distributed system. What I did was I started with just one computer, but I've been building hardware for quite a while. So I started pulling the things out of the closet. I'm like, well, I got this computer here and it's got some old RAM, but I could put this video card in here. Well, I've got this laptop. Oh, I even recently pulled out a 12-year-old build, an FX99. It's got only DDR3 RAM, but when I put a 2070 Super in it, an 8 gig card, it was cranking out 83 tokens per second on really respectable models. It was a game changer to me. I was like, wow, any hardware you have effectively, you mesh it together, and then it becomes more of a scheduling task than really anything else.
So, is that what a digital solutions architect does?
Ah, oh, that is what a digital solution architect can do. It's a loaded term. Depending on the organization you work for, it can fit different types of roles. I tend to lean very heavily towards identity work, consumer identity or enterprise corporate identity. So in those solution architect roles, typically what they want is somebody for a very particular project for a large enterprise or somebody just starting up that wants the groundwork established, and an individual that will go between multiple silos and lines of business and be that sort of technical vision and communication up and down and across. Silos normally have that strength vertically, and you'll even call it like a principal dev, typically if it goes very vertically. But when they go across org, across silos, that's typically when you call it a solution architect.
So, how did you get into being a solutions architect,
Look,
a digital solutions architect, or is it AI solutions architect?
I came up through the path of the builder. I've been lucky enough to be in this for a long time. And I got started back in the .com era, recruited out of college to work for an R&D department. So I was trained by guys who there was no such thing as an unsolvable problem, just tools that didn't exist yet. So if the tools didn't exist, then you built the tools and then solved the problem. So starting from there, everything else as far as building it seemed pretty straightforward after you know at the very low levels. And then it was just moving between different jobs, learning from the teams that I can learn from. You know, how does a Java team do it versus a .NET team? How does an AWS versus a Google Clouds team do it? What if you're using Vue versus Angular? I just wanted to see how other people solve problems. And it meant that I would take whatever role that team had that I could both fulfill and grow. And then you follow that pattern long enough and you walk through a lot of doors. And when somebody says, okay, I want a perspective on where you think this might fail, having seen these type of integrations, having seen this many moving parts, give me a breakdown of risk. And then I want you to go in there and mitigate it.
And how do you mitigate the risk?
My passion for documentation. It stems.
That was going to be my next question is what is your connection to documentation?
Yeah. No,
Wonderful.
So as you said, breadth of departments, very often that means those organizations or teams don't have an established methodology for communicating with each other, which often the first step is understanding how they can talk to each other. So that itself is a form of documentation. And then every attempt that you make to understand every conversation, if you document all of those, eventually you start to shape towards, oh, there's a lot of patterns. And not only does it help me understand as the person who's trying to stitch it together, anybody else from once they start to see you documenting your work, once people start to see you trying to incrementally turn this chaos into something that everyone can talk about, they start pointing at those documents. And that's what it feels like. That's what winning feels like. When somebody's like, oh, okay, this one. And then they start stitching it together themselves.
When you become their source of truth or their documents do.
Or when they feel so connected, they're like, this document represents me so well, I can add my knowledge onto.
Interesting. So what's your experience working with technical writers? Hey, quick sidebar. If you're capturing screenshots for docs, and let's be honest, you are, then Snagit is the tool I've used for basically my entire career. It's affordable, it's intuitive, and it has way more features than you'd expect at that price point. There's an affiliate link in the description if you want to check it or Camtasia out. Full disclosure, I get a small cut at no extra cost to you if you decide to buy something, but I'd recommend it either way. Okay, back to it. Interesting. So what's your experience working with technical writers?
Cool technical writers. I've come across a fair number of them in my time. They're often they're great people. And I tend to see them coming from librarian sciences, back before UX was even called UX, taxonomy and things like that. The naming and structuring of documents was, I think, where that came from. And most people who I work with in the technical writing space have that sort of mindset or education, which also makes them spectacular generalists. So it just so happens that I firmly believe that this is the golden era of the generalist. So myself, you hear like a lot of different doors, a lot of different paths. I'm very generalist oriented, but I see technical writers as having an even more broad generalist view set than mine, which means you have even more to gain in the AI world.
That's really an interesting viewpoint because the trends that we're seeing right now are job posting asking for very specific knowledge in technical writing, or like a developer who likes to write technically, or a technical writer who's already an expert in Kubernetes or whatever software they're going to be documenting, which I have a whole disagreement with that, but that's reason for another video.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand why somebody would ask for that, but because somebody asks for it and that's the best utilization of an individual, I don't believe those are the same. I think you would find individuals that are that technically focused, especially if you're talking about Kubernetes and now that's infrastructure, right? And infrastructure is almost a level of coding deeper than coding itself, which that's not normally the same strata of individual who is also a taxonomist or just maybe I can pivot here where I think I would see creative or technical writers doing the best work is in creating experiments or setting the boundaries. Because you have seen so much, it's very, I'm sure you can say, oh, well, when I walked into this shop, this was going, we didn't have this documented. This was going sideways. Oh, well, if we didn't stay on top of this, this is how this kind of spirals out. That type of knowledge is exactly the knowledge and experience and dedication and attention to craft that is required to keep agentic models doing what you want them to do. To get an agentic model to do documentation, anyone can do that. To get to do it consistently, that is difficult.
Tell me more about that.
Just, well, it's because AI and agentic models are designed to please. So if you just give them data and you say, document this, they'll absolutely do it for you. The distinction, I think, where if you really want to succeed is before you even document, you want to know why you are documenting it. Who's going to read it? What use cases are you covering? Is it for the machine? Is it for the human? Is it for the manager? Is it for the project? Is it for the org? Well, it just so happens that in the agentic world, with the right sort of prompting, one set of artifacts can project a multitude of different perspectives. And I think that's the real unlock. I call it artifact-driven development. So if you go in to a project with a methodology, or you go to a software development team and you can say, here's the process, you don't even need to say process per se. Once upon a time, it was a process, but now it's a skill or a memory worked into Claude, or it's a MCP tool that has a particular guardrail attached to it, or it's middleware. The implementation can be different, but what you need is somebody who is thoughtful about here's what we want, why we want it, and where it can go wrong, and then rigorous enough to get in there and audit it consistently until you can teach the bots to audit it for you effectively. But that's a full-time job. That's not just something another developer can do. And I don't think you're going to have a lot of success finding, say, a random Kubernetes person that really is passionate about doing that either.
Yeah. Do you see artifact-driven development becoming more widespread or widely adopted?
Yeah, I am slowly starting to see the trickle come into it doesn't have the same, people don't use the same terms for it, but things like LLM Wiki would be a more robust approach of that. I was just having a conversation with some colleagues of mine this morning, and they were asking me, they're like, well, when do you go to GraphDB? And I'm like, I rarely. And it's like GraphDB is so overkill for a lot of what I do. What I need is JSON-L, append only. So I think everyone knows JSON. JSON-L is just JSON log, and you can write a line at a time in an append only state. So that's a form of an artifact, if you ask me. It's a record, it's in text. You don't necessarily think about it as a document, but it tells you so much, or especially can tell you so much.
What is your criteria for success with artifact-driven development in your agentic systems?
That's easy. It comes back to consulting and solution architecture. Like at the end of the day, I want what success for me is if somebody who's not me, who's never talked to me, who's never seen the project that I've worked on before, can come and just look at the artifacts, find the documentation, and either self-chap themselves, guide themselves through it, or better yet, point their agents at it, and the agents will tap them through the process it's already, the pattern is so well established, the guardrails are so well set, the criteria for how you test and where the edge cases are, a long depth of here's what we did on this date, here's the decision that we made, here's why we made this decision. Time, just put the laps in. And if I can walk away and someone else can step in, that's success.
Nice. Right now, there's a lot of discussion in the technical documentation community about AI assisted documentation and particularly agentic documentation, like making agents, like building a pipeline that uses AI agents and agentic AI. I'm not sure which way to say that would be more correct, but do you have any advice for someone who wants to build an agentic documentation workflow?
Ooh, so much advice. Oh, where to start?
Start at the beginning, go through the middle, and then stop. Hey, if you're trying to figure out how LLMs fit into your work, I put together a free AI cheat sheet. It's got the people worth following and the concepts you actually need to know without the hype. You get it when you sign up for my newsletter. Link's in the description. It costs you an email address, and unlike most newsletters, I promise mine won't make you regret it. All right, back to the video. Start at the beginning, go through the middle, and then stop.
Oh, the beginning. So the beginning is
Hey, if you recognize that quote, put it in the comments, gang.
okay. A couple base level tricks. Your ego will get in the way. The machine isn't going to judge you. If you don't understand, ask it again. We're here. This is, if you love to learn, if you're practiced in research, this is such a golden age. The acceleration on the availability of tooling to bring you knowledge in the shapes that is easiest for you to consume. Oh my goodness. It's such a gift. Use it. That would be that's the first, like, how do you work with agents? Second is you want to figure out what the limit of an agent is. So I'd go with context engineering, understanding when an agent forgets after you give it too much information. That'll let you know what each of these type of machines, each of these brains that you ask can actually do, because they're not all the same. They do have different specialties. Once you have that foundation level, then I think you can get into building workflows. And you could go right away into a tool for workflows. There's lots of tools for it. I would suggest not. I would suggest asking the agent that you're familiar with the exact question you just asked me, and give it everything that you just learned how to collaborate with on those first two steps, and collaborate with that agent to both set your own success metrics and build your own planning cycle. And then once you build that first one, go to a different agent, point it at your outcome, and dog food it. Did it actually work? Does it actually pick up? To me, you can't skip doing it yourself. Doing it yourself is the differentiator. I think earlier on you said something about we're right out of the gate. I've heard it a lot. For proof, I need proof. And I'm like, no one knows what proof is. Like, people don't know what they want, in my opinion. Most organizations are under-prepared to articulate the exact use case that they actually have, and their hiring cycle is not scoped to really fit this sort of high churn, quickly evolving market. So what you do, in my opinion, is you build a lot of stuff yourself, because the differentiability is going to be, you've done it so many times that you could just sit down and do it again with a different model. The models are always going to change. The tooling's always going to change. But if you have refined your ability to collaborate with models, to understand when you start going sideways, how to orient yourself again, how to vet your own work, those are always going to be valuable.
I think that experimenting with local AI models is valuable for a layperson, kind of non-specialist user, or should they stick with the chat GPTs and Copilots and Geminis and Claudes of the world?
Cool. Yeah, do you already have a graphics card? Right?
Oh,
That's the limit, because the hardware market is what it is today. Prices are just so crazy that it's difficult for me to say, go invest in something. But if ever you had somebody who went to the college and they once upon a time had a gaming computer, or like a gaming computer from 12 years ago, it still has enough technical pieces to be like a decent, legitimate box that you can wrench on and build some stuff. And the reason why I suggest that is because of frugality. I think it
Mhm.
is only a matter of time until this all you can eat buffet thing is going to go away. And then you're going to be on just token leverage. You're going to pay for every token that you have. So now is the time to learn how to be efficient. And I can send you an article and maybe follow up with it. I have a very simple one called How to Set Up Your Local MC. And again, it'll work on any graphics card. If you have a 2 gig graphics card that just from a CAD machine, doesn't matter. That'll still work. All free tools, all open source. You set up an MCP server and then you point it at, say, Claude Code or GPC or whatever agent you want. The MCP is the universal connection for how those communicate. And you can say, offload all of my reading of files, offload my Git commits, so that I'm not having a frontier model charge me to use my tokens to do that stuff locally. 100% worth it, unless you got a, look, again, depends on your, how much time and how much money you have and how much hardware you have. So,
Yeah, it sounds like if you already have the hardware, it's worth spending a weekend tooling around with it.
oh, for sure. Yeah. And look, like, there's so many tutorials out there now that do it. It's turnkey. Maybe 6 months ago, not so much. But these days, if it's Intel or AMD or NVIDIA, it doesn't matter. Or if you want to get it running on your iMac mini, just on a hard drive, tutorials for any breed, any type of hardware you can think of, people have already done this. So you just got to
Hmm.
go out for it.
So, gonna take a little bit of a turn here. You are a consultant and you've been a consultant for a long time. Yes?
Yeah, I don't only do consulting, but yeah, I've been consulting for at least 15 years.
Well, what with this lousy job market right now, I suspect that a lot of people are thinking about making a move to consulting, at least temporarily. What advice would you have for people who want to get into that?
If you're watching what's happening with LLMs and quietly wondering whether your job is safe, you're not paranoid, you're paying attention. I coach technical writers on making their skills visible before it becomes urgent. Positioning, portfolio, career strategy, whatever your situation needs. The writers who come through this well are going to be the ones who get clear now, not after the next reorg. Link to my calendar is in the description. Book a meeting with me. Let's talk. Now, back to the video.
What advice would you have for people who want to get into that?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, I'll give you both sides. It's going to be one of the best times to get a consulting. I see in the next probably 3 months to the next year and a half, it's going to be an absolute boom somewhere around just kind of like post 2008, around like 2010 when that started to recover, or like post Y2K, about 2 years after that. It's only a matter of time until you can't, like, yeah, I won't go there with my predictions. Let's just answer your question. So the horizon is very bright. Now, unfortunately, just as it's the golden era for generalist, it's the golden era for snake oil salesman. It's the golden era for hype and fear. So I go back to being a lumberjack, and forward momentum is what gets you through it. Putting laps in so that when you talk to somebody, you're not telling them about an article you read or the book you read or the theory, because those are going to change so fast that they're almost going to be irrelevant. What you need to do is to become very competent in the skill set that you want to offer, and then eloquent in your ability to say how and why you can apply it to a particular market. And then also say that you got to be comfortable living without getting paid for a while, because it is unlikely to be solid work. I think fractional employment is going to be, even in the consulting world, I think the consulting engagements are going to be shorter and shorter as it will be as the tech cycle iterates more quickly and the business starts to adapt to how do we actually hire for a skill set that didn't exist 6 months ago.
Oh boy, that is a good question. And speaking of such things, how what how should we adapt to that, especially the technical writers that are probably watching this right now? What advice do you have for folks like that?
Technical writers. So collaborate something. The first step is always the hardest, but we have to move. There are a lot of big players in this game that are highly incentivized to have you be scared or angry or frustrated. If you don't move, other people win. So you have that first step is the most important. How do we
What
hire?
is the first?
The first step is get on a web chat browser and ask a question. If you haven't started with web AI, start there. Open up a browser, ask it, give it the pick a task. I want to do some meal prep. I want to understand how good my PC components are to build a local AI network. It doesn't matter. Ask it a question because you need those reps. There's no, what I say, like, you might even see me doing this. It's like a touch and feel. Once you internalize that, once you connect it to something else that you've done in your career, then you can start to leverage it. I can already see technical writers from my perspective and how I've worked with technical writers and how, actually, let me take a step back here. There was another one that just reminded me of, like, how do you prove that you're doing? So the proof in the AI world, my sort of fact on the proof is, if I can do more now than I could do before AI, that's proof that I'm leveraging it. So I sort of built my consultancy, but I was like, I always wanted to be able to do this, but I just couldn't do it. Not enough hours, not enough time. But now I can scale it to do more. And I think everyone is going to have a little larger slice of the pie. So you want to figure out what your capability to take more of that pie is. If you're a technical writer, but now you lean, but you've worked with so many coders and you've documented so much code that maybe standing up simple HTML pages is something you can do. Well, now you're taking a little bit bigger slice there in that direction. Or do you go, now you want to go maybe more up the reporting angle instead? And like, how does this tie into different types of dashboards and then persistence into SQL or something? That's another sort of technical angle off the edge. And that's just from my limited exposure to what a technical writer can do. Didn't
Awesome.
quite answer your question there, though. Sorry. Should I finish or forgot where I'm actually?
Okay, I was hoping you had some advice for technical writers in this lousy job market.
That was me being optimistic. You can work your way out of it. It's because you are generalists. And
Yeah.
I still see you like researchers. You have you know what you want and you can define it, which is so valuable. I cannot even articulate it because until you get in there, it looks the same from the outside as somebody who's just, oh, this is real easy. Da-da-da-da-da. Agent goes, it does a bunch of stuff until you come back to it 3 months later. Or you make that one mistake and then it hallucinates. And now your code base doesn't have a backup. And now you're trying to reconstruct it from documentation. That's when you realize, oh, we kind of let that documentation slide for 3 days, but the agents can code so fast. 3 days is 3 months in an actual project now. Oh no, we're really in trouble. I don't know how technical writers can convince somebody of that other than build these workflows, build these engines, practice them and have them refined. And then once you do, go and collaborate with other people. That's where I found a lot of joy and a lot of, again, you don't know proof and you don't know what you don't know. But if you go work with a bunch of different groups of people trying to build stuff and just for the practice of building things, and we all seem to be running into the same problems and the same solutions, you're like, well, I think we're all, yeah, this is about as much proof as you can get these days. So.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you very much for joining me, Derek. This has been a really enlightening conversation.
Diana, thank you so much for having me.
Right. And hey, folks watching this, if you got value from the conversation, Please like and follow however you do on wherever you're watching this. And maybe leave a comment. It really helps us out with the algorithm. In the meantime, keep writing and stay frosty. Bye now.